I'd like to welcome you to the patient panel, the voices of the patient and caregivers. So today we're joined by Leah, Alex, and Tom. We got her camera on. Okay, so we'll start with Leah. Leah, you want to share your story briefly and where you are right now as far as treatments?
Sure. Hi, everybody. So in 2011, I went in to have a hysterectomy. And while I was under to have the hysterectomy, my doctor had seen that I had about a 3 centimeter tumor in my ileum area. I was clueless that I had this disease because I had lived with chronic irritable bowel syndrome since I was in my 20s. So nothing triggered that I had the disease. And as far as the flushing went, I was flushing ever since I was in high school. So I didn't detect anything out of the unusual until they had found it when I had the hysterectomy. And the first thing my doctor said was, don't worry about it. It's nothing. You'll outlive it. And I remember being in the hospital and I had my iPad, and I can remember being still groggy from all the medication I was on, going onto the internet, and the first thing I found was, don't let anyone tell you that you have nothing. So I started the hunt to find out, okay, what do I do? And at the time I was in Toledo, Ohio, and there really wasn't anyone that could help me out. And so I started looking for people. I ran into Marianne and found out about, some of the physicians and NOLA and all of that. At that time, though, I didn't really realize how much, where I was and anything. They were seeing a couple of spots maybe on my liver. And then probably in 2013, I started doing the Sandostatin treatments. Oh, I'm starting to turn red. So here you go, guys. Mine's mostly emotional. But I started doing the Sandostatin shots. And then in 2014, it was time for me to have a liver resection. So I went down to NOLA, and a lot of craziness going on in my life, and so they had to kind of fit me in because I was towards the end of the year, and they did a liver resection. And then from there, that kind of has kept me pretty stable until just recently. So I got about 6 years out of that, and then they have since then, I am now I just had my second PERT. I'm on 60 milligrams of Sandostatin. My shots are doubled. I'm hoping to get back off that as soon as if I get some good results from the PRRT. So I mean, it's been a long journey, and it was even longer before I even found out that I even had it. So it's been a long process, but for me, it's been, pretty good. I've been pretty stable. I mean, I have a pretty normal life, and I'm just hoping that the PERT can probably, or maybe, or hopefully, save a lot of stuff that's going on in my liver. Now I have bone metastasis in like my shoulder and in my femur, in my lungs. I think I have one in my lung, and then just some bone. I'm not really sure if I have it in my if I have a tumor in my pancreas area. It goes back and forth. It depends on who's reading my report, because sometimes it looks like it's under it and still in my liver area, and then sometimes it'll come up that it's my pancreas. So anyhow, they're hoping that all of those will just kind of shrink because they're smaller. But that's kind of my journey.
So, as an experienced net patient, do you have any advice for a newly diagnosed patient?
Yeah, don't panic. It's not the end of the world. Do your research, be your own advocate. don't let anyone tell you that either you've got 6 months to live or that this really isn't a cancer or any of that information. You really have to find yourself a specialist, because there's just, even today, there's just not the doctors out there that really understand the disease. And I am in an area right now where there's not a lot of specialists, but I am going to Emory in Atlanta, and there he's pretty knowledgeable. But the oncologist that I had before him here in Atlanta, she's still reading some old books. She's not. The problem is they don't always get a lot of education, so they need to be educated. So if you hear something or you go to your doctor and you want to know about something, you need to bring that up to them so that it forces them to kind of look into it and try to get the best information for you. But I think the most important thing is don't rely on anything anyone tells you that's not a specialist in this disease, because they're just kind of shooting at the hip because they're not really sure and they have to tell you something. So
Right.
don't let any doctor discourage you from seeking a specialist.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, Alex, you're newly diagnosed. You're only a couple of months, right? So, can you share your story?
Yeah, actually, the 26th of this month will be my year from going into the hospital and it being diagnosed accidentally, or by incident. So last year, 2019, November 26th, I ended up in the hospital. I ended up in the ER. I thought I had the flu. It turns out I had pneumonia. I had obstructive pneumonia due to a mass that was in my lung. And it turns out, after testing 8 days in the hospital, that it was the neuroendocrine tumor of the lung. I was told the same thing. Don't worry about it. This is really no big deal. You're fine. We'll go in and take it out. No biggie. My husband and I were in the room, actually. He was there with me. And the doctor came in and was like, oh, did you get your results? And I was like, no, we haven't gotten our biopsy results. And he goes, oh, well, it is malignant, but it's no big deal. Don't worry about it. And after he walked out of the room, we just kind of looked at each other and we're like, okay, like that was weird. All right. So of course, we went home. I did a whole bunch of research, and at first, everything told me I was gonna die. It was the end of the road. And then after doing a little more research with what he had told me was carcinoid, after putting my pieces together, that carcinoid went neuroendocrine, and it took me to all of these sites with current information and research is when I really figured out what was going on and what I had. And so it was just in my lung. It was in my left lung. It completely blocked my airway. So what they did was they went in and they did a cautery. They went in and they cauterized around it and an ablation and removed what they could, opened up my airway to get me breathing and get the pneumonia cleared up. And then I did see a surgeon who they were trying to only take my top lobe of my left lung. Unfortunately, they were not able to save my lung. So on January 23rd of this year, they did remove my entire left lung. The margins of the tumor were just too big. And they did remove 16 lymph nodes. 2 of my lymph nodes did come back inconclusive. However, the other ones came back, negative. So as of right now, everything is clear. I am not having to do any treatments. All of my markers for carcinoid syndrome have come back negative. However, I do have the symptoms. So we're kind of arguing about that. I was seeing a specialist. However, I didn't really like her. And then as I was doing some research for my blog, I realized she's actually no longer even listed as a specialist, as one that they recommend. So that might be something, it might be a good thing I decided not to continue seeing her. So I am going to go see another specialist. I'm thinking of going to Louisiana and seeing about that, with mine being my lung, and following up on possible carcinoid syndrome. And I did have a octreotide scan before surgery to kind of see what my markers were. My surgeon was aware enough of NETs and at least know to get accurate scans before surgery, before removing the tumor, to try to get what he can in markers. So I was able to do that, and that did show 2 spots in my liver. However, all of my other scans have been negative for that. So we are just watching my liver right now, and I will do 6-month follow-ups with the CT.
There
with
is one
both
party
oral
in the conference.
and oral and vein contrast, as well as they're going to do my lungs, abdomen, and pelvis, and then I am going to be doing the blood work and urine tests that go along with the markers for right now. So we're just following.
Okay, so that's great. That we're glad that you found us, and we have to
Yes.
say that Leah is now going to be taking over as going to be taking a big part in the Georgia new NET and CAN chapter, and Alex has signed on to also do a Virginia chapter. So we're really excited, and welcome to NCAN. Next is Tom, and Tom is our leader to the chapter in Wisconsin. Tom is a caregiver. So Tom, can you tell us a little bit about being a caregiver and what is really important for a caregiver to know?
Sure. Well, I just try to know everything, and the reason is so that my wife doesn't have to think about it, because we all know when we get on the various sites for NETs, you have to have a really big filter, because there's a lot of opinions out there. And if you didn't have a filter, I would say 50% of the comments I wouldn't even want her reading, because it may not be true. There are opinions. And so you really have to be careful and take things with a grain of salt. I will clearly say, I'm going to tell you a little story. So 5.5 years ago is when my wife got diagnosed. She had some breast discomfort. She got an x-ray there. It showed up something. So then she got a CT, and they saw something on her liver. So it was very, it's a textbook story. And she's a midgut. And I was just doing, incredible amount of research, when all of a sudden I'm Googling, and this was in the month of May of 5 years ago, so 2015, and I see that there's this NET conference in Minneapolis, which happens to be 4.5 hours from us, and we have a daughter that lives there. We also have a daughter who's a physician assistant. So it was literally like 4 weeks. So we went to Minneapolis, and it was an NCAN get together, and we got to see a number of the specialists. And I also realized at that time that, number one is see a specialist. So kind of narrowed that down to 3, and the 3 don't really matter. We selected one that happened to be closer to home. Have been there since, very happy. But my wife had 2 surgeries, one right away in fall of 2015 to remove part of her colon and the gallbladder, and then remove some NETs from the liver, and then a repeat of that about a year later. She's been on Sandostatin, she's been on Afinitor for 2.5 years, and she's been very stable. So she went from having a few metastases on her liver to NED, to all of a sudden progressive liver disease with 50 tumors on her liver, and started taking Afinitor, and that has held everything at bay. Her biggest issue is she's had like 16 partial bowel blockages, and she's in good shape. She eats well. She's really changed her diet. So that's really the focus right now for us, is to try to figure out how we manage that, because taking trips, we never know what's gonna happen. Of course,
Right.
we can't go anywhere anyway right now, so it doesn't matter.
We're all kind of stuck in this together
We are.
right now. Well, thank you for sharing your stories. Is there any advice that you have for a caregiver?
Well, yeah, I just try to manage all the front end with the medical, the insurance companies. We're on Medicare now, so it's quite easy, but before it was, just so much. I just feel for young families that don't know how to handle this. So I just, as a caregiver, really try to take all of that junk work away, and to try to distill what I know into just some more simplified, understandable, where are we, what are we going, what are our options? Because, I don't do chemistry, I don't do science real well. And I just try to simplify it, not only for myself, but my wife as well. The other thing I always tell people, and there's a lot of things, but every single medical appointment that we've ever been on, I take my phone and I've got a recorder and I just set it on the desk. And when we're done, I upload that to YouTube on a private, so that any of our family members, if they want to listen to the call, they can. And no one in any practice has ever had any problem recording the conversations.
That's a really good idea. I always encourage people to do the same thing. I also encourage people to, with COVID, it's really hard because our loved ones can't be with us. But when we do go to appointments, I always encourage that you bring somebody with you, because sometimes we get that white coat syndrome and you just shut down. And this way there's somebody else listening, or as you do, record. So this way you can go back and listen again to make sure you heard what you heard. So those are really good advice. What I'd like to do is just say thank you to all of you for sharing your story. We are going to be in the Zebra Lounge, and there'll be breakout rooms for different types of tumors. So if you want to join us in there, we will be in there. This concludes the part of the conference, but I just have a few announcements to make. One, I got to thank each and every one of our sponsors for helping us make sure that these events happen, because without those sponsors, we wouldn't be here.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank our speakers, because without them, we would not have the education that we do and the empowerment to actually be advocates for ourselves. Many of you know that we just did our virtual walk. We are leaving it open. It's on our website. We are leaving it open till November 30th. So anybody that would like to join the virtual walk and receive a t-shirt, please sign up. This year has been really, really hard on NCAN due to the fact that a lot of our events had to be canceled. And we're looking forward to, hopefully in 2021, to be able to meet in person to do our national conference. For those of you who have never been to a national conference, it is a lot of fun. We usually have 500 to 600 people in attendance. It's a 3-day event. We have over 30 doctors speaking, and we're hoping to have it in September, the last week in September, first week in October, in Atlanta, Georgia. So start saving your money. Everybody, please, please, please stay safe. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving and holiday season. And we are looking forward to our virtual conference for 2021, sometime at the end of January, beginning of February. We'll keep you posted. Go to the website to get updates. And if you have any questions, go into the hospitality room or into the Zebra Lounge. So thanks again, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.